Tonight, weathering the storm. Isaias heads north as the U.S. coronavirus case count hits a new high. This amid a new outbreak at a summer camp in Georgia. And
I'm 70 years old and I'm about to be on the street.
Pandemic politics.
Certain cases where we're paying people more to work, stay home than to work, that's created issues in the entire economy.
Progress but no deal on the next COVID-19 relief bill on Capitol Hill. Plus, another violent weekend in Chicago, capping off the city's bloodiest month in nearly 30 years. And amid calls for police reform,
I'm the guy that wrote this bill.
Joe Biden's role in a controversial crime bill from the 90s. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. The eastern seaboard bracing for what could be a massive hurricane. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jenna Browder. Well, tonight, tropical storm Isaias is heading up the coast, expected to strike North and South Carolina overnight. After a near miss around Florida, the National Weather Service is warning people in coastal communities to prepare for significant flooding and high winds that could bring down power lines and trees. Mandatory evacuations for several areas sent vacationers packing ahead of the storm.
Disappointed and frustrated and sad.
And North Carolina's governor is issuing a state of emergency for portions of the state as forecasters say 70-mile-per-hour winds could hit the Outer Banks as the storm comes ashore. Folks in Delaware and as far north as Rhode Island are also on alert as forecasters expect the fast-moving storm to bring heavy rainfall, strong winds and storm surge to some areas later in the week. And if it's not a hurricane, it's the coronavirus, now claiming more than 154,000 American lives. But tonight, a bright spot. The U.S. recording its smallest daily increase in cases in nearly 4 weeks Sunday. Mark Martin joins us now with more on what's happening here at home. Mark?
That's right, Jenna. It's a grim number. The Centers for Disease Control predicts nearly 30,000 more Americans could pass away from COVID-19 in the next 3 weeks. And U.S. health officials are again calling on all Americans to take the necessary precautions.
In the U.S., there are 4.6 million confirmed cases of COVID-19. And White House Coronavirus Task Force Dr. Deborah Birx says what we're seeing today is different from what happened in March and April. She calls it, quote, extraordinarily widespread. President Trump criticized that, claiming Dr. Birx was responding to criticism from Nancy Pelosi, tweeting, in order to counter Nancy, Deborah took the bait and hit us. Pathetic. ABC News reports the number of hospitalizations are increasing across 2/3 of the United States. And the number of people dying each day is on the rise in 36 states and Puerto Rico. The CDC now predicts that in less than 3 weeks, the number of COVID-related deaths could hit more than 180,000.
Everyone who walks around refusing to wear a mask, or who hosts an indoor house party, or who overstuffs a boat is directly contributing to these increases.
Then there's the fight over whether to reopen schools. ABC News reports that already several school districts in the first week back in the classroom or even on the first day have reported students testing positive.
We've been a little cavalier about this and have sort of assumed that kids are fine and they don't spread at all or they don't get infected very often. I think we're seeing data that suggests that that may not be true.
The CDC reports a huge camp outbreak in Georgia among children. Officials shut down the camp after hundreds of kids came down with COVID-19. So far, ABC News reports that according to the CDC, 260 campers and staff members tested positive.
And now more information on the search for a vaccine. Pharmaceutical company Eli Lilly says it has begun the final stage of testing monoclonal antibodies. The company hopes they'll provide short-term immunity for patients, which it hopes could serve as a bridge until an official vaccine is ready. Jenna?
All right, thank you, Mark. Well, this week, negotiations are again underway on the latest round of coronavirus relief. But the White House says a deal is still a ways away. CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy joins us now. Ben, what is the holdup here?
Well, Jenna, the holdup centers around unemployment benefits. The White House argues that some people are making more money by staying home, but Democrats disagree.
I'm totally involved, and we're going to be doing some things that are very good.
President Trump sent his chief of staff and Treasury Secretary to Capitol Hill, hoping to strike a deal with Democrats.
We're not close yet, but it was a productive discussion.
Schumer says money for state and local needs, as well as paying for schools to open safely, is a must.
What started as probably the first day of a good foundation of productive discussions and building upon those and until we reach an agreement.
The agreement hinges on unemployment benefits. Democrats want the original $600 a week extended until 2021. Republicans want to cut that bonus to $200 a week. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi argues 30 million Americans count on that support for food, housing, and childcare.
What we are doing is not only trying to arrest the virus, but to invest in the economy.
But the White House argues the higher the amount hurts the economy because some people make more money by remaining unemployed.
There's no question in certain cases where we're paying people more to stay home than to work, that's created issues in the entire economy.
And all this is happening as Congress prepares for an August recess, so there's more pressure on lawmakers to hash out a deal. Jenna?
All right, thank you, Ben. A possible ban on TikTok. That's what President Trump says. The president telling reporters he will ban the popular video app and other Chinese software companies that pose a threat to U.S. national security. And Secretary of State Mike Pompeo echoing that sentiment, telling Fox News TikTok and others are sharing users' information with the Chinese government. India has already suspended TikTok, and Australia is also entertaining the idea. And here now for more, Nathaniel Bradley, founder and CEO of Data Donate Technologies. Nathaniel, good to have you. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So your thoughts on all of this? How could the Chinese government use our personal information against us?
Well, it's quite profound. As consumers, we've been under this constant assault on our data assets, whether it's our families themselves that we're looking to protect or our own private personal information. It's just a situation where we're under attack, both from foreign sources, as with TikTok, and when you see what's going on here with the Chinese government, how they can use this information is pretty much unlimited. We have a dearth of information that's available within our mobile devices. We are transacting with products and services, and every aspect of our life is available if you can crack into that data. And these applications have become a Trojan horse where we're exposed within these apps. And so foreign governments and companies here domestically are using this information to their own benefit.
So, Nathaniel, in your opinion, should we all get rid of TikTok, delete it from our phones? And do you think we'll see a national ban here in the States?
I think we will see the ban. And in terms of, in particular, our youth, who are enticed by the capabilities of these apps. It is just a situation where, as a parent, I would recommend deleting it. It's a situation where these apps are exposing our data to individuals that have been found to be irresponsible with it. And until such time, I don't recommend having TikTok on your cell phone at the moment, in particular for children.
So Microsoft is in talks to buy the U.S. arm of TikTok. President Trump, he says that the U.S. should get a cut of this. Nathaniel, your thoughts on all of this back and forth?
Well, it's a fine line. Our government, it has to protect us from enemies, both foreign and domestic. And in the case of Microsoft, I think we could all say that we'd much prefer Microsoft to have the ownership than we would the Chinese government. But either having access to our information is a bit unacceptable. This exchange for data for the use of an application, for us to have to exchange our personal and private data for the use of those applications is often a covert exchange. We're not really explicitly aware of the exchanges that we're making. And one of the keys is really putting our arms around how valuable this data is and where this data is being utilized. We need to both understand its value and how to protect it. And a lot of times with these apps, we're opting into a program that we're not really realizing how much we're giving away.
So about a minute left here, but how else, Nathaniel, can the U.S. fight back against massive data theft like this?
Well, standards. When you bank, primarily the banking system has fixed the security around the use of these data exchanges. And we need to look at these mobile apps and holding companies accountable at a much higher level so that when we utilize even apps that are just social media in nature, that those applications are secure, much like a banking application would be.
Now, it is an interesting topic and one that we'll be talking about for quite some time. Nathaniel Bradley with the Data Donate Technologies. Thank you so much. Good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, an epidemic of a different kind in Chicago. Gun violence and another bloody weekend. Clarence Page with the Chicago Tribune joins us.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug of war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
It's what starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Tonight, Chicago is reeling after another deadly weekend of gun violence. A 9-year-old boy was one of nearly 40 people shot and 8 others who were killed this weekend, marking the end of a very bloody month in the Windy City. At least 107 people were killed in July, the deadliest month in Chicago since 1992. And according to the Chicago Tribune, 570 people were shot last month. And Clarence Page with the Chicago Tribune joins us now. Clarence, it's always good to have you. You've been with the Chicago Tribune for more than 50 years now. What do you make of all this bloodshed?
Well, having been with the Tribune that long, I've seen a lot of bad summers, some worse than others. We had actually more homicides. Homicide rate was higher in 1994 and a couple of years back in the 70s. But here, the last 3 or 4 years, we have seen really record highs as far as the whole country is concerned. We've been leader in that category that nobody wants to have, which is having the most homicides. Right now, that's the case that they've gone, shootings and homicides have gone up again so far this year, but not just in Chicago, across the country. We're number one, unfortunately, when it comes to actual numerical murders. But across the country, they're wrestling with this sort of thing in the other top 10 cities, according to a survey the Wall Street Journal just published today.
Well, the mayor of Chicago has voiced her opposition to the president sending in federal troops. Clarence, you recently wrote an opinion piece about this. You actually think Chicago should welcome the support.
And I think they will in the end, because this whole story has been kind of distorted by the current politics. President Trump wants to show he's a good, strong law and order president. And to him, that means if you got a lot of crime going on, you send in the feds if the mayors and governors aren't taking care of it to his satisfaction. But that doesn't mean that Chicago is going to be another Portland, where you saw actual units that Homeland Security sent in, which looked like military and behaved like it. And they had a lot of people said that they actually contributed to making things more noisy and violent than they needed to be. They've been pulled out of Portland, and that the headlines have calmed down. In Chicago, nobody's ever said that they were really going to send in troops to Chicago. But Mayor Lightfoot is welcoming help with tracking down guns and other illegal activity. Gang crimes is a big cause of the violence right now, which is not unknown in Chicago. But it's not a case of where sending in armed troops on the streets is going to make a difference. The real problem has been bad community and civilian police relations. And Chicago can use help with that. Lori Lightfoot's a former federal prosecutor. The current U.S. attorney is the old friend of hers, and he's going to be the one who'll be in charge of the federal units coming in. So I think it's going to be pretty quiet on the surface, but maybe we can make some headway now in breaking up the gang structure.
Yeah. We want to talk about 2020, Clarence. Joe Biden, he's being urged by some to skip the debates with President Trump. Your thoughts on that? Can Biden actually do that?
I rather chuckled with that. Biden didn't say he wants to skip the debates. That's his supporters. And frankly, I believe that a lot of them will be doing Biden a favor by lowering expectations, frankly. I've known Joe Biden since the late 70s and covered him a lot. No, he's not as swift as he used to be. Neither am I. Neither are most people when they get older. But the fact is, Joe Biden knows the issues. And let's not forget when he went to debate Sarah Palin back in 2008, when they were both vice presidential candidates, and people were worried about how Joe's performance was going to be then. Turned out Joe did just fine. And I think that's going to be the case here. But lowering expectations really helps Joe.
We're all waiting to hear who he names as his running mate. Clarence, any sense?
Well, I have a sense that's down to about 10 or 11 finalists right now.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to guess. Kamala Harris, of course, is the name you hear the most, I think. But there's a lot of talk in and outside the Biden campaign that a lot of folks don't like Kamala because she showed up Joe in their first big confrontation during the primary debates.
Yeah, that was a contentious back and forth. Yeah.
Very much.
All right,
so.
Clarence Page with the Chicago Tribune. It's always good to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Up next, Joe Biden's role in a controversial crime bill from the 90s amid calls to defund the police.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
Administering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back. America is a nation of criminals with more incarcerations than any other country in the world, including communist China. So how did this happen? Well, it started when politicians went too far, being, quote, tough on crime. And one of those politicians is now running for president. Jennifer Wishon explains.
Across America during the 1990s, just walking down your street could be scary. Crime rates were peaking, and crack cocaine addiction was reaching epidemic proportions.
So murder rates, all violent crime rates, were up dramatically, and people were tired of it.
So much so that 44% of Americans told the Gallup organization they were afraid to walk alone at night near their house. In that same 1992 poll, 54% said there was more crime in their community than the year before.
People felt very unsafe.
And pressure was on Democrats in control of the House, Senate, and White House. President Bill Clinton was in his first term, and then Senator Joe Biden, chairman of the Judiciary Committee, authored the 1994 crime bill, the most sweeping crime legislation in U.S. history. While it's controversial now, at the time, Biden celebrated his accomplishment.
I'm the guy that wrote this bill. Presumptuous thing to say, but I wrote this bill. My own little hands. And I added into the bill more than 50 death penalties. I support the death penalty.
It also increased penalties for drug offenses, put more cops on the streets, and included the 3 strikes provision that required repeat felons be put away for life.
You must take back the streets. And you take back the streets by more cops, more prisons, more physical protection for the people.
To build more prisons, the bill promised states billions in federal construction money if they implemented truth in sentencing laws to ensure criminals serve out most of their sentences. And by 1999, most states had changed or adapted their laws.
It certainly made sense to the extent to which you believe that there was a crime problem to focus a lot of those dollars towards the state, since federal criminal law enforcement is only a very, very small percentage of people who are involved in the criminal justice system. The overwhelming number of people who are arrested, prosecuted, and incarcerated, that all happens at the state level, 90-some-odd %.
Looking back, many Americans criticized the crime bill's devastating impact on communities of color. In a recent column, Democrats from the University of Pennsylvania wrote, Biden's 1994 crime bill championed the popular tough-on-crime approach during the countrywide escalation of policing, discriminatory stop-and-frisk tactics, mass incarceration, and the racist war on drugs. This tough-on-crime approach amounted to a war against black and brown communities through police violence, which limited economic and educational opportunities. And as he courts black voters to support him this fall, Biden now takes an apologetic tone.
I haven't always been right. I know we haven't always gotten things right.
He's even shifted blame onto the states he once incentivized.
We have to say to the states, no more. No more mandatory sentences. Enough is enough is enough. We should be reducing those sentences.
Politics aside, many criminal justice scholars agree the legacy of the 1994 crime bill is complicated. While crime rates fell after it and other tough-on-crime measures were passed, that combination helped America today rank #1 in locking up more people per capita than any other country.
I do think that in some respects, the pendulum swung too far and that a corrective measure such as the First Step Act was an appropriate thing to do.
Appropriate because it dismantles parts of the 1994 law and was supported by both Republicans and Democrats. And as policing and racial justice are debated between now and November, expect to hear much more about both measures. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Washington.
Thanks, Jennifer. And still ahead, a successful splashdown after a summer in space. The mission making history.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Finally tonight, NASA astronauts made the first water landing since the 70s in the first astronaut trip to space led by a private company. The SpaceX Dragon Endeavour completed a 64-day test mission and landed off the coast of Pensacola, Florida on Sunday afternoon.
It was truly our honor and privilege. Congratulations, everybody at SpaceX.
Astronauts Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken were reunited with their families and welcomed with a party at Ellington Air Force Base last night. And welcome home to the astronauts. What an incredible mission. Thank you so much for joining us and starting your week with us. We'll see you back here tomorrow.